You said the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. What do you mean by that?
Yes, Charlie Kirk did believe the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. Now, people are taking that and twisting it around to say that he was racist without even taking it into context. My name is Donnie Young. I'm the host of Spoken Like a Man, where you get truth without fear or filters. Charlie Kirk did say that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake, but he fully explains why. People are taking that small little piece and twisting it around to say how racist he is and saying he wants to get rid of the Civil Rights Act. I've compiled a couple of different debates here from him where he fully explains his position on this. Take a look for yourself.
You said the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so the parts of the Civil Rights Act were great, but the way it's now being implemented to force men in female bathrooms to push forward of the trans agenda, the intent of the Civil Rights Act is way beyond what it was originally authored for.
But the intent specifically originally was to
Well, that's
desegregate.
interesting. So the intent and the law are two different things. So the intent was noble, which was to say that no American can be not allowed into a place of business based on the color of their skin or their ethnic heritage. Totally agreement with that. That's not what the law only did. It created a massive anti-racist DEI army that then gave us affirmative action. For example, recently, Merrick Garland sued using the Civil Rights Act, saying that we cannot have voter ID in certain states because it's a violation of the Civil Rights Act. So basically what the Civil Rights Act did is that it went beyond disparate impact and then went to disparate effect. In the sense where if black Americans are not doing as well as white Americans in a certain category, you can now use the Civil Rights Act and say that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act, even though there might be other contributing factors. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's too broad, too wide, and it's now doing a lot of damage to the country. It's being used well beyond its original intent.
Now, this next clip's just a little bit longer, so make sure you watch until the end because he really explains it well here.
And my main question is it's for Charlie. Why do you feel like the Civil Rights Act was a mistake?
So parts of it were really good, parts of it were not so good. So, for example, the way the Civil Rights Act was constituted is that now it is being applied in ways that it was never intended. And so the Civil Rights Act has now been used as this major overarching standard that is not just about ending bitter racial segregation, which I'm against and you're against, right? No person should ever be discriminated based on the color of their skin. What the Civil Rights Act has done, passed through multiple decades, is the law of unintended consequences. That it's created this leviathan within the Department of Justice. For example, let me give you just another example. I have like 100 of these. In the state of North Carolina, they wanted to say that you need voter ID in order to vote. I don't know where you come down on that issue. I think that requiring identification to vote is so normal, so simple. It is skin color. It's colorblind, right? Merrick Garland from the Department of Justice came in and sued and says you should not be able to ask for voter ID because of the Civil Rights Act, because it disproportionately hurts black Americans. So what would happen is the Civil Rights Act, it did not target discrimination. It targeted disparities, and disparities is different than discrimination. Does that make sense? So individualized discrimination, we've always been against. But what happens if you have one group that does better than another group? There are other explanations for that other than racism. Unfortunately, the Civil Rights Act, what it does is it goes back and says everything can be ascribed back to racism as our original sin. Now, let me just go one final point, is that the fanfare that the Civil Rights Act is met with, it's almost like the new Constitution. We talk about the Civil Rights Act more than the Constitution. It is cited more than the Constitution. We almost had a new American founding in the 1960s with the Civil Rights Act, which, again, I want to be very clear, and I've always been, no human being should ever be discriminated against because of the color of their skin. That is always something we've agreed with. But the Civil Rights Act has become almost the super constitution of the land.
So
let me say a couple words.
I cut out Vivek Ramaswamy's part here to save a little bit of time and because everybody seems to only be concerned with what Charlie says. Vivek actually agrees with Charlie. Here's the rest of what Charlie had to say. This is where he says he prefers a one-page Civil Rights Act that just says we shouldn't discriminate based on race.
So my question, really, to Charlie. So, you would if you had the opportunity, you would get rid of the Civil Rights Act?
No, I think you should have a one-page bill that says that racial discrimination based on race is illegal and will not be tolerated in the United States of America. I would simplify it. I would not have all. So what happened is that the Civil Rights Act has 9 different titles in it, and you have this leviathan that was created. And something that most black Americans don't support is men and female sports. Would you agree?
Wait, say that again?
Men playing in female sports.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, I know. No, for sure, right? Believe it or not, the Civil Rights Act is now being used to keep men playing in women's sports. So the Civil Rights Act was used to help black America originally, Totally get that. But now the way it was written is that any claim of identification, so someone says, I'm a woman, therefore I can compete in your volleyball team, they come in with a civil rights claim. And so what we're saying is, no, it should be specified to racial, not gender, all that other stuff. And there were all these other provisions as well.
All right. If this gave you context and you liked what you saw, make sure you like, share, and follow Spoken Like a Man. And remember, the full interview link is in the comments below.